Hail, hail, the Celts are here, and what the hell do we care now? Click your fingers and snap your heels together, and before you know it, the summer is gone, and there's a new season right around the corner, and it feels like an eternity, and it's been half a second all at the same time, but we're back for a wee bit of Thursday night, Sorare CSC action here on the Celts are here. I am Quinny, and I could not be joined by anyone else to kick the year off than McBride Ace. McBride, good to see you, my man. Hail, hail.
Hail, hail. How you doing? I've got a bone to pick with you. You said I was in that intro, and I just seen a random older guy in the background. I thought, that's not me. So you're going to have to fix
that. For sure.
Anyway.
You get some McBride content in the intro, no doubt about it. How you been?
Aye, good. I've been off on holiday recently, so I've been kind of at a loose end this week. So that's why we're on the Guinness. Like, it's not just for celebrating it being Thursday night or whatever, you're on the Magners. So, yeah, Celtic coming back. I've missed it over the summer, but in a way, sometimes it's good to have a break as well, if you know what I mean, apart from all the transfer stuff. But aye, it's been good. What about yourself?
I've been kind of charging on the channel, mate, for the most part. As you said yourself, there's been transfer stuff going on and not going on. So there's been plenty to kind of chew over. We've had some Sorare heroes as well join the club, like Ben Negren and maybe one or two others. So it's been kind of battle stations for me for the most part. No rest for the wicked, but I've managed to carve out some time here and there when the sun's been out to go and get down to the locker or do some bits and bobs. So it's been good fun, mate. Obviously, we've kept in touch, but first time we've been on a show in a wee while, which is always good to catch up with. A live chat is flying away, by the way, so good to see all of you are here live and loud. Smash the like button, of course. Get into the comment section. Welcome McBride back to full-time action. He's back from pre-season. He's back from international duty, and he's ready to go for that domestic.
Warming up with the Guinness.
That's it. Now, like you touched on there, McBride, it's probably a good spot for us to kind of get up to speed with and catch up on. Because as much as we've been chatting, we chat about Celtic and the transfers and whatever. I've probably not had your full take on where we're sitting right now, and it'd be good to hear just your thoughts and feelings on where the squad sits. As we come to talk today, this is kind of how I've got it reckoned on the usual little board here. I'll kind of move some guys out the way so that you can see them clearly with the comments box there. But it's a smaller squad than what went into the summer, which is kind of a good thing, you know, with some of the guys that have left or whatever. But Celtic fans all across the world, I'm sure you'll be no different, think we're missing some goals in the team. But as it stands at the moment, how are you sitting? How are you feeling?
Yeah, I think it's been a wee bit frustrating. Obviously, you see some of these names, and we know some of them as well, Quinny, and like some of them are actually like quite exciting, and then they don't transpire, so that's quite hard. But squad-wise, I mean, I think like I was thinking about this earlier actually. I think defence were better. I know that everybody's a wee bit frustrated with maybe trusting Scaldini, as you call him, but like you brought in Kieran Tierney, and like he's an upgrade. There's like obviously an upgrade. So defence-wise, fine. Midfield's interesting. You've got Nygren in there as midfield. Like, as you know, I had him on Sorare last season, and he can play anywhere on the forward line. So if like Brendan wants to play him in the sort of Nicholas Kuhn position because left-footed coming in or whatever, I think he could probably play there as well. Just because Brendan really likes like, you know, sort of left-footed right winger or whatever. Midfield, I'm pretty pleased with. I think we could still do with a defensive midfielder, just like from like the big games last season, the ones we struggled, like McGregor struggled a wee bit to sort of impose himself in those games. And as you said, like when up front, Jota's injured, sold Kyogo in January, we've sold Nicholas Kuhn. We look a bit light up there, don't we? So we need to get some wingers in. But Brendan's basically said that as well. So yeah, I think we're, I don't know. I feel as if we're slightly weaker based on what we were doing last season, because I always felt as if there was like expected goals were like 2 and 3 a game and everything for the whole season, you know. So I feel like we've kind of went backwards a wee bit from that. I think we made some good signings. Nygren's a great signing. Like, can't believe we got him for like under 2 million. Like, brilliant. And I think Yamada will actually be really good as well. Like, I think he'll be good. If we'd paid 6 or 7 for him, then I think that actually people would be going, yeah, it's a good debut, and they'll splash some cash and all that sort of stuff. But so yeah, I think overall it's still pretty good. But you know, yeah. How long do you want me to rant about it in terms of the
just so you've got it off your chest, big man. That's all. I make it quite right on a lot of it. Do you know? I think, you know, I was doing a podcast with somebody else earlier today. The Dugout, I think it's called. It'll be out. It's out now, actually. I was saying to him, like, I would we scored a record amount of goals last year. I think it was the highest goal tally in about 50 years or something like that. I find it hard to imagine we're going to be anywhere near that same level of actual goal output, looking at the team as it sits right now. But one thing I think will be a lot better this year, as the squad currently sits, there's still transfers to be done, is, you know, that brain damage football we get sometimes when we're playing against 11 men within 18 yards and we keep getting, like Vickers and McGregor will get 1,000 passes a game. I think with Negren in there, that will not go away, but I think it will lessen. We'll see a lot less of that because having Negren and Ditati kind of driving through the middle or kind of doubling up in wee tight areas and try and kill our balls and shots from the edge and stuff like that, I feel like we'll cut through teams better, I think, rather than this kind of ponderous way we've maybe been last season especially.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head. I mean, like, it was really, obviously, I'm thinking back now at the end of last season, some of the pain's returning now. But that game when we, for the treble, like, you really missed Hatate. I feel now that, I mean, I don't think, like, McGregor, Hatate and Nygren will work that well as midfield trio against like, any form of top team because, you know, that's a kind of like a creativity like type midfield against guys who are going to sit in at home and stuff. So, but it's good to add that because that was something we definitely missed last season. And I think, like, you know, we're going to talk more, I think, this season about Sorare in general, just obviously what's called Sorare CSC, and then we spend like an hour and a half talking about Celtic, but we'll probably focus a bit more on Sorare. But I had Nygren last season and he was excellent for North Island, and even like, so they do this funny thing like where they split as well, like same as Scotland, and the last sort of 5 or 6 games against all the best teams in that league, like he had a brilliant record. So it was excellent. He got his debut for Sweden. I can't believe we got him for 2 million. Honestly, it must just be the contract situation. Like I thought he would still be like 4 or 5, but I think they've undersold him a wee bit. So he's a gem, but I think that we still need some other guys in as well. So
yeah, and I think Negren was one that we all seen, especially if you've been aware of the Danish league. Like he's just absolute top of the food chain. We'd previewed him on the channel back when we were linked to Kvitsgarden, but back then we're talking about November, December time. He had links to Brighton, Brentford, those types of teams for 10 million euros, give or take. I think the contract expiring in December was a kind of I don't want to say unknown fact. I think it's kind of public enough, isn't it? But it's just kind of understated that his contract was so, you know, it didn't have as long left to go. And I think we've capitalised on a great position there. It's a shame that we've not had that same conviction with some of the other transfers. Like Jacob Briam's, again, a player we're very familiar with and hard to imagine he wouldn't excel in the Scottish League. Champions League's maybe a question mark or whatever. But yeah, it's been kind of mixed bag, isn't it? The outgoings have been good. Inamura, who we've not mentioned yet, it's definitely got some fans from pre-season. It feels domestically like he should be kind of up to scratch. European-wise, again, maybe still jury is out. But Yamada's kind of the quiet one where everyone's kind of fallen in love with him after his debut. He does have a wee bit more the keel goes about him. And Adamida certainly isn't flavour of the month around here these days for one reason or another. So it would be quite easy to imagine that Yamada could be the arrowhead that we get out of the business we've had so far. And if he gets anywhere, even if Yamada does the same as Adamida, I can imagine fans being a lot happier with that. You know, if he was to smash 20 goals in all comps.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, if I hadn't had a Guinness, I would drive him to Udinese, to be fair. Like, I mean, it's been a bit harsh. I mean, right, so Adamida, he scored nearly 20 goals last season. Obviously, I really wanted to come to the club. We were probably a bit to blame as fans as well because we were all like egging on the club to sign him and everything. It was one of those ones to like, yeah, sign him, pay the money. And it came out, it was like 9 million. Like, no, not that much. Like, you know, like that's too much. But obviously we went and we done the deal. So kind of interesting. Yamada, obviously we know these guys like from like Sorare in the J League. So I mean Yamada's been pretty poor this season, but last season he was like I think him, Anderson, Lopez were the best strikers in that league. So, you know, it's worked well for us in the past. It's a market that's not expensive, 1.52 million. It's not a big risky transfer or whatever. And he looks good. He's got some of the attributes that, you know, maybe, you know, he's got some similarities to Kyogo, but a bit stronger. So maybe, you know, he'll go a long way if he's going to sort of mark his record and stuff at Celtic. So let's not get carried away. But like, he's got some really good attributes. And Inamura, you know, like, I've seen more lead in a butcher's pencil than him. He's probably, you're going to have to pick the games that he's playing at, but like, it's in terms of progressing the ball and stuff like that, he's really good. So I guess the annoyance is like the scouting team have kind of looked at him and thought, this guy's come out of like college or whatever. He's 1 year professional football, passing stats great. We're looking for ball progressing centre halves. We sign him, and then all of a sudden it becomes back up to Kieran Tierney or whatever. But like you don't, like if you're playing that high possession stuff or whatever, and you put him in that left centre back, like he'd be brilliant because he's like really quite positive on the ball, and you've got get JSP in there. It's like I done a video the other day, and somebody messaged me, and he it was about this guy, and instead of putting in Pusey, he put the other spelling of it, and it just comes up in the video. It says is going to play, and I was like, that's going to come up in my video. Anyway, so he's not confirmed yet, but he's played 6 games for Man City already, and seems to be quite highly rated. But what's your views on him? Do you think like he's going to come in and just partner CCV, or do you think we've just went for the cheap backup option after moving out Navrocki and Lager?
The first thing I'll say is Celtic here dropped an exclusive earlier today. His medical's booked for Friday, so it's done. Essentially, it's happening. And that question is a great one. I've actually had that come to me a wee bit. I mentioned it in the video that went out Wednesday, I think, the transfer video yesterday, in fact, at point of recording for this. And I think it's going to be one of two things. It might be he's meant to be a partner Vickers because we don't like trust your scales or whatever internally. I think it's more this kind of approach. Like we know Kieran Tierney isn't going to play 8 games a month. He's not going to play 7 games or 6 games a month. Probably 4 or 5 is where you're going to likely catch Tierney over the month, over the season each month. I think we are now finally at the penny drop moment that we need to treat Carter Vickers the same way if we want him to play the most important matches of the year, because it's, insanity. You do the same thing every year and expect different results. Every year he misses Champions League games. We play him every match. We've got no other option for him. So I think it's a little bit of the Tierneys we'll be given Vickers is what this guy's brought in for. But that is also a kind of insurance policy on Dane Murray not being able to carry the water for Vickers, as it were. And I think, like, in football squads and this type of podcast thing, you always talk about, like, when Aaron Moy comes in, or Kolo Toure, or these types of guys, you're like, oh, they are veterans. They really have got experience. They'll be really good for the younger players and whatever. And that's all fine. I'm not disagreeing with that. But I think there's something to be said for having like a colleague in that kind of situation. So if you think about Dane Murray, who's came through the Celtic B team system, and we can talk about that till the cows come home, I'm sure. And he's also had struggled with injuries, whatever. But when this guy JSP rocks into the building, he's going to get up close and personal with what it is to be a centre back at Man City academy level, and what that looks like, how high you jump, how fast you run, how quick you make decisions, how hard you tackle. And I wouldn't be surprised if Dane Murray came out of this for the better. It's kind of the punchline to that. But I think it's for the Vickers position to cover him, and maybe the JSP inclusion in the team pushes Murray on. We might not even see this guy if that is the position, because the club do seem to fancy Murray. So if he's got that kind of colleague there, that guy that's like should be on par with him, and he's got that kind of yardstick to show his own improvement against or help himself hit some milestones, I think it's for that. Personally, because I know a few Man City fans quite closely. I'm sure you do as well, just through the community. But one of them was telling me that there's no buy clause on this. There's no buy clause reported at the moment. Man City very rarely do that, like very rarely. They're always happy to sell people, maybe put a buyback clause on it in case they fancy them later or whatever. So I don't think this is a deal that we are like, oh, we need this guy for the future. I think it's kind of like anyone that we would have wanted is either too expensive or we can't get. So we're just going to go with a safe option to fill that role in the team. I don't imagine he is to be a starter with Vickers, but more that insurance policy, that handcuff for Carter Vickers, and maybe to push Dane Murray on at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, CCV had the other knee cleanup thing as well, didn't he, over the summer? So it's given a bit of extra time off, and they kind of like done some more. I mean, last season we were all a bit skeptical about, like, obviously how much like Vickers was going to play, and played a lot of games last season, so he did pretty well from that point of view. So touch wood. So yeah, this young guy. I mean, I haven't really seen him play myself. Seems highly rated. Maybe he's like, it's just a case of they'll get him out for games. City obviously like the setup at Celtic, right? Because this guy could go to the Championship or whatever, he could play there. But Man City are playing like they want to like dominate the ball. They want to playing the Champions League and everything. So Celtic's probably a good fit for some of those their young players, because again, Celtic dominate the ball, style of play wise, and then whether or not he starts or not, he's still going to get to experience these big Champions League nights, and also come to a team that's challenging to actually win something. So I guess like the big question is going to be, do they have something in there to say he's got to start a certain amount of games, like the Alex Valley situation where he wasn't playing and it was just like, yeah, we're going to move him somewhere else, so whether that happens. But I don't know. I mean, like my own thoughts are like, with all the money and everything we've got there, like just go and just find somebody in Belgium or whatever and just like go and buy somebody, like we could suggest some names now that we're in the scouting department, but like, yeah, I mean, I think we could go and spend a couple of million on somebody and get somebody that's actually a reasonably quite good young centre half to come in and deputise. So I don't get it. Like what I don't get is like how we've accumulated so much money and got this policy of bringing in our own and developing them, stuff like that, and all of a sudden we're just going out and doing a loan. Like I don't see it. Like if it was with a view to, like obviously what we've done, Carter Vickers came in loan from Spurs, and I think there was a buy option and stuff like that. So if there was a buy option included, I could see the reasoning for it. But I don't know. It just seems slightly weird. But yeah, we've got 4 centre backs in now or whatever, and does that mean we're just gonna go with Scales or Trusty? We're not going to improve in them. Yeah, like I think we could improve in them, but obviously we're not going to do it with the priorities in other areas. And yeah, we'll see. Pre-seasons, like people like with the tip and stuff and everything, Quinny, like Nigerian's definitely going to take Engels' place and stuff. I've just never heard so much nonsense in my life. Like Engels, like Celtic paid 11 million for him, and he's going to play loads of games, right? Like, so you're going to have some rotation. Like, you can't always say that somebody's going to be 100% to start or whatever, but I don't think Nigerian's going to actually take Engels' place. There'll be games where that might suit us to go with the creativity and stuff, but there we go.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think there'll be a lot of variation, and I think on that guaranteed minutes angle, I think the way these deals are structured, I think we've seen something quite similar with Alex Valley, although we don't have the details. It's mainly speculation, but I do think like these deals, it's maybe like Man City will say to Celtic, right, we'll loan you him for nothing and you pay half his wages, but see if he doesn't start 10 games, you're on the hook for all of his wages.
Yeah.
Something like that, there's maybe a penalty or something like that against it, or the deal changes. Or if he plays 20 games, then you don't pay any of his wages, or that kind of caper. And it feels like Valley was in that kind of mold a little bit previously. We've got Mini Me in the chat. Mini Me is somebody from my channel community, probably, and yours as well, McBride, a Man City fan, a local Mancunian. My battery's exhausted here. I'll just change camera. Sorry, it's been a long day on the camera. But yeah. Shane's quite quick to tell us that Pussy didn't actually get into the squad until it was a proper injury crisis. I do think at the Scottish League level, he should be way above kind of par, and I think physically and technically he'll probably stand out a lot better than he has at crisis situation. Man City wasn't obviously their best year on a lot of metrics last year, so I'm not too sure that's all on him for that necessarily. So yeah, it's a funny one. We'll see how it goes out. And we've also been linked as well. Celtic fan has dropped into the chat. I think he's excited about a name. I say Sweden's not one we're always terribly close to here on the channel, but Victor Eriksson of Hammarby. So, if that's a permanent centre-back we're after, it maybe raises even more questions about this Pussy deal.
Pussy.
I don't care. I'm just going to say it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think what I would say is, like, you've got Scaldini in there as centre half, right? Maybe like Rodgers had played Scales as a left back before, so maybe like he just like takes some game time or whatever from Tierney. I mean, like not take some game time. Like Tierney, I don't think is going to be able to play like the kind of 50+ games, just like high intensity stuff, like bombing up and down the line, all the time. So I think there'll be games like we've got quite a good sort of initial cup draw. I can't remember who we got at home. Was it Falkirk or something got home? I can't remember. But it's a home game in the cup, and you're thinking like, all right, I know we want to go for trebles, we want to be successful, but if you're going to manage a full season and you're going to play all these different Champions League games and you want to still be there at the end of the season doing pretty well, you can't just slog out the same guys all the time, right? So like Cal McGregor, right? Like last season, With some cup games, I think I even started like one of the sort of daft. Oh,
Camera faults for all of us
camera.
today.
What have I done? You know, I was getting too animated there. Can you see me again? Yeah.
Yeah.
I flipped up my screen. That's when I start doing that with my hands. Yeah. So Cal McGregor, like it was like a game you like Celtic are like you're going to back them -3 or -4 or whatever, and Cal McGregor strolls out and going, why? Like what? I don't get it. Do you know, like we got to that point at the end of the season where I think he had like some these wee groin niggles and stuff like that, and I know he's not playing for Scotland now, so he gets those natural breaks throughout the season and stuff, so that's good. But you've got these games against like maybe a first division team or whatever at home in the cup, just leave him on the bench. Just have him in the squad, get him to do the team talk, then just let him sit on the bench. And if something happens, it's one each or you're 1-0 down with 30 minutes to go or whatever, bring him on for like that kind of like leadership side of things or whatever. Just rest him. You know, don't just slog him for the whole season. So back to the start of my point, I think it scales from that perspective. He might, rather than be the main sort of backup or whatever for a left centre back, he might actually like feature a bit of left back. I just think like I'd like to see Trusty given a run. I think he just lost his place last season. His wife had the baby, the wee injury and stuff. Scales came in. He did pretty well. And it was kind of one of those, like, you know, didn't seem as if Trusty really deserved to be dropped type thing. I don't know. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it pans out. Do you think I don't think that we're going to sell anybody else at this point. I mean, Rodgers talking about incomings. So, like, it's going to be like what we're going to add into it, right?
Yeah. I think so. I'd be very surprised if Barn, Tillio and Welsh, the two grey dots I've got on the screen here, anyone else would be to go. I think like the Yang move's been shut down, and I don't think really Yang was on the chopping block too much because really, like how many players can we sell? Because other than the amount that we're meant to be buying. But yeah, I'm with you there on the McGregor stuff in terms of rotating him. We've also been linked with a loan move for Bajcetic from Liverpool. I think that'd be a great move if we could do that with a loan buy option. So you get to test him out before buying him, see if he has actually recovered from his injuries or whatever. And he is a defensive midfielder. Again, similar to Inamura, there's not much. There's more lead in a butcher's pencil probably than Bajcetic, but he's still a defensive midfielder. He still has that nose for danger, although he's not maybe like a big bruiser or anything like that. Tall guy, he's like 6 foot or something, but he's built like me, So maybe it doesn't go shoulder to shoulder.
Better in the ball.
Aye, yeah, that's it exactly. So yeah, there's been a lot of upheaval in the squad. I think we're on the same page with I think most Celtic fans are pretty much in unison these days with the way the squad sits and everything else. I do expect there to be more business to come in between now and really the end of the window. Rodgers has said as much, of course, but we need to. I think we're all waiting, mainly the club that I'm talking about when I say this, on the Champions League qualifier. Maybe seeing the draw. If we get like one of the easy 3 draws out of the 5, I think Sturm Graz and Basel are tough, but the other 3 should be within our grasp. I think if we see what's going on, we maybe make a wee move after the draw, but I don't think anything serious will happen until it's delivered. We're going back to the Champions League. And with Rangers getting by Panathinaikos, by the way, their next round is against Pilsen. If Rangers get in the Champions League and we don't, the Sharks are coming out, aren't they?
Let's not think about that. So Rangers need to play that round and then they have to play the final playoff as well. Is that right? Or is
there another one after Pilsen?
I don't know. I've missed all the. So we're So I think there's going to be a draw done on Monday, but then also that's still dependent on some games. So I think that Rangers need to play the next round and then they play like somebody quite good. If it's Benfica, Club Brugge, then yeah,
had their stuff, didn't they?
I don't think that scenario you mentioned is going to be. But then let's focus on us. I mean, like we want to get in there, right? So I mean, if we've got like Slovan, Bratislava, or whatever, you'd fancy that we'll still be quite good. But like, that team that bashed up Bratislava is, 2 of the front 3 are not there. So like, yeah. we need to sort of still keep kicking on. Like you mentioned Yang a lot there. I mean, I think like I've seen a lot of sort of stuff on Twitter or X, whatever you call it these days, like people, Yang's had enough time and he's not done enough. I mean, I think like if you look at the second half of last season, Yang done all his best stuff then. At one point, with Kuhn's sort of dip in form or whatever caused that. Yang was keeping him out for a few games, and all right, he's not got a brilliant goals and assist record or whatever, but he had quite a good goals and assist record towards the end of the season. He was quite poor in the cup final, but I mean that can happen for young players or whatever, like he's got to learn how to handle that sort of occasion and things. But Yang I would definitely keep, more so because I think that actually when he got those games, he actually improved. And I think if you've got young guys and you see that they're improving, you don't sell them. Like you see whether or not they can improve again. It's the same way as we bought Nicholas Kuhn, and nobody in Austria was really raving about him. They were just, thought it was all right, and all of a sudden done well in the Champions League, done well against Leipzig, done well against Bayern Munich, and he's away playing in Italy, and his dress sense is went a bit south by the looks of those friendlies. I love that as well. By I was on holiday and I just had a few beers watching the game, and like Maeda comes out and you're like, oh, is this all going to be frosty? And Maeda just comes out and just tries to deck him and stuff, like he just dies and just causes carnage. Like I love him. Just like everybody else would be like, Brendan looked at him as if, what the hell is that you're wearing now? You're in Italy now. So I think you've got a dress sense and everything. Dyson just tried to put him over his shoulder, give him a wee, you used to do when you're younger. He was like,
yeah.
He's just some man, isn't he? Absolutely mad. But hopefully we don't, I mean, obviously this is like even a worse scenario, but hopefully we don't sell somebody. Like if we sold somebody like that, like I think everybody would just go absolutely ballistic. Honestly, I mean, we've had a big sale. I think that's like, we don't need any more. If that makes sense. So
I'm with you there. I didn't realise Maeda was on the last 2 years of his contract. It is up in 2027, I'm pretty sure, but that detail was something that wasn't really at the front of my mind. So yeah, it is kind of, yeah, that's maybe one to be nervous about, perhaps. I think, like, I seen someone say it in the comment section of a video, but you feel that might be the ripcord that Celtic pull if we don't qualify for the Champions League. They just cash in on Dyson and they go sack it. We're in Europa League this year and reset. Really hope that's not the case, obviously, but because Dyson seems really bought in a good way. By all accounts, the latest reports where they were trying to negotiate a new contract with him. So I would expect to hear he's had an extension signed. So again, like Dyson, he's probably not going to retire at Celtic, but he strikes me as the sort of guy that, like Petrov, like will make sure we've got a contract to sell him on, rather than walking out the door for next to nothing. So yeah, I would be quite confident we get a new deal for Dyson, even if it's got a minimum fee slid into it, just to, balance the scale of everything. Committing more time and that sort of thing. So yeah, hopefully there's no more meaningful sales. I can't imagine there is really either. To be honest with you, I'm the same. But you mentioned Trusty, just to kind of swing back to that for a minute. Like, I think Trusty's looked really good in pre-season. He's played every game in pre-season. He's had that kind of steady start to the year that he wouldn't have got last year, because last year he pre-seasoned with Chef U, started their season a little bit, then came to us, and then was kind of like, he was only at us for like 3 games and he was playing Champions League or something like that. He was really chucked in the deep end, like a lot of our signings have been over the years. But one of the things I think obviously it's been in Amura and Montgomery and Frame and whatever in the earlier stages of pre-season. But I really think playing next to Tierney is going to be an easy upgrade for him. Because before, like, I'll just put the tactics board back on screen, but everyone here knows how it goes with Celtic when we dominate the ball. We get into possession and it ends up becoming like a back three, doesn't it? It used to be Taylor that would go walkies and go do stuff. But then when teams were like chipping the ball into this zone here, Trusty's got to be the guy that's going to go and get it. But Carter Vickers, can he go all the way over here to help him? It opens your team up too much. He's then got to come all the way in. So you always find that Trusty, when he had that left, that inverted fullback thing to deal with, whether it be his problem, whether it be the left back's problem, not good enough, whatever, I don't really care. But he's isolated out here and he's then in no man's land. Really, the furthest across Vickers is going to get is to this space here. He's never going to go over there like a left back, left centre back team would be in that corner dealing with somebody. So then that then gives a gap because he's been pulled out here. And then, we've had exploitation of that before. Whereas with Tierney, like as much as Tierney might bomb up and down the line, I don't think it's ever going to be the case where Trusty has got this whole thing to protect all to himself as much. So I think Trusty, just by having Tierney next to him, you're probably just going to see a more composed, a better version of the guy himself. And Like, yeah, he's not a great ball player. He's not bad either, you know. He's just not like elite Champions League £40 million centre back level. You know, we can handle his passing. His passing's fine, you know. And if defensively he's a bit more composed and get a bit more cover, I think he'll just do better. And then, you know, it's like, mate, confidence breeds confidence, doesn't it? You then see a better version of him quite quickly.
I'm really glad you said that because I bought his unique on Sorare and I thought I'd made an utter arse of it. So, anyway, that's not a point. Yeah, I mean, with Kieran Tierney, like, that's interesting because, like, you see a lot of the highlights and I've watched like most of the friendlies and he's popping up kind of on the outside in the left-hand side, whereas you said with Greg Taylor obviously used to play as a mid, didn't he, like when he was younger, and he was really quite comfortable in that position, but then, you know, kind of left us a bit open. Tierney, again, I think is like a really good option there because he started playing a wee bit as the left sort of centre back for Scotland. Sometimes maybe to play a free at the back. So obviously he can play any of those positions there. And I also think that, like, you know, if fitness is going to be an issue, then at some point Tierney's going to start, like, you know, kind of withholding something. He's not going to be just bombing up the line thinking, right, I don't care if I pull my hamstring here type thing. So, you know, maybe we will be a bit more solid at the back, but I think that Tierney will add that bit of quality. I can't remember, I think it was the first goal against Ajax where Tierney played the ball through to Hatate. Hatate played the ball over and then Yang scored. And I was just sitting going, yeah, okay, I've had like a few cocktails and all inclusive and stuff, but what a ball that was, like, you know, and like it was like a total, like, it was just like a kind of breath of fresh air because a lot of the times we've been quite frustrated with the game, like the balls, maybe we were having a laugh about Vickers to McGregor and McGregor to Vickers and goes that way and it goes that way, and like, whereas all of a sudden we've got some of these guys like Kieran Tierney who play that pass forward, or just, I mean, some of these guys maybe can see that pass, but they just don't back themselves to play it. I mean, Alistair Johnston's a great player, right? But and he's added a lot of the stuff, getting his assists, and he's you know, building a relationship with the right winger and look what he does and stuff there. But he's a solid defensive guy and he gives it everything, but he's not brilliant at progressing the ball forward and stuff like that. So getting those options in is pretty good. I'm glad we're doing this actually because I was like I feel a bit better now I'm talking it through, to be honest. You start thinking about it and you just think, oh, you know, we've not signed this guy, we've not signed that guy. And Jacob Broom, I'd love it if we signed Jacob Broom. I mean, like, at one point in Sorare, everybody was going daft for him. One of the best young players in the Eredivisie. So, you know, like, the frustration is if we're lowballing them, like, why are we lowballing them? Like, he's obviously a good player. He's one of the best young players in Holland, who are they fifth just now? I mean, I think they actually got above France at one point in terms of country coefficient, but they're in the top 6 of the leagues in Europe. And, like, you know, he's really good. Like, he's a really good player. Just sign him. Like, just pay $1 million more, $1.5 million more. We need players in. He'll do a really good job. Frustrating, but here we go.
Yeah, Go Ahead Eagles also won the cup last year, so, you know, like, climbing the mountain with a wee team, that's pretty credible for me.
I need a Guinness. You want to talk about Broom and I'll go down and I'll recharge.
Aye, you do that.
You recharge your batteries, right?
Well, I actually put another battery into the camera and it was dead also, so I actually do need to recharge batteries. But yeah, Jacob Bream, I was saying this, and McBride can maybe hear me or whatever, I don't know. Somebody asked in the chat if I heard back from Celtic on the job application. That was actually the video that went out on Monday. So if any have missed the content this week, we had a video out on Monday with me going through the Celtic job application I made. Yesterday, Wednesday, we had our transfer update. We talk a wee bit about Jacob Broom, but maybe GSP and Bajcetic, the loan deals. They were the main things we looked over. So yeah, if you're interested in any of that, feel free to check it out. Of course, do smash the like button if you're here with us live as well. If you're watching us after we've been live, then please do hit the like button as well. We've just hit through 13,000 subscribers recently. I keep forgetting what camera I'm on, but there you go. We're looking to get to 18,888. So if you've not hit the sub button yet, please do so. Me and McBride stream this show every Thursday. It'll probably be 7 o'clock on the regular, but we have regular uploads on a Monday, on a Wednesday. I normally do a weekly catch up on a Friday as well. And yeah, I have seen this as well, AJ. I really hope that's just been put out there for justification or for context for why Celtic are trying to lowball the offer. I hope it's not to tell us that we're going to be Kvitsguarding this guy and we're going to be waiting for a year before we sign him. I really hope that's not the case. And I would disagree that I think certainly on this channel, we were all about signing Adam Ida. Like if that's who Rodgers wanted, go and do it, go and get him in. But it is to a point, you know, and the number one thing I said about Ida last year, I'm sure McBride would echo and agree with this, is that £9 million could buy you a lot of different strikers that are better than Adam Ida. There's nothing wrong with Adam Ida. I'm happy he's here. I think he actually grown quite well last year. And I hope that he does better this year. But at £9 million, at that price point, you've then got a lot more options, you know, versus if he was like 5 or 4 or whatever anyone would have wanted him to sign for. So yeah, like I'm quite on the bandwagon of get the guys you want. I'm definitely in that camp, but there is to a point, you know, where it becomes redundant, it becomes counterproductive because it's taking money away from other positions you could reinforce, or it's just a deal that could backfire on you too easily. So I'm with that's where I'm at with that, certainly.
Battery recharge.
And there he is, batteries recharged for you on that one. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at on the channel this week, and everything. A YouTube video can make even Rangers players look good. That's funny to see, isn't it? So yeah, YouTube highlights are only worth so much, of course. And Jacob Braham, by the way, if you do check his YouTube highlights out, they're not quite Ben Negren level. I think when anyone watched Negren really passes eye tests really easily. Braham will be a great player in the hoops. I've got no doubt about it. But he's effective, you know, without being glamorous. It's probably a little bit of a difference you get with him versus like a Negren kind of type guy. But not a wingery winger, Braham. Mainly played as number 10 a few times on the wings.
Yeah, that's what I found a wee bit strange about it. But and also like Antman, like obviously Braham had an injury, and then Antman, like, you know, was pretty good towards the second half of last season. But I mean, like there's a couple of good players there, and let's not talk up Antman too much in case he ends up at the blue side of the city, because there was a lot of links with him signing as well. But what it does show, I think, is that, you know, people talk about the scouting side of things and obviously the signings. Like, I think it's quite reassuring that we're identifying good players within this sort of budget range. Whether or not we should still be operating in bargain basement or whatever at this point is obviously another sort of discussion. Ed was saying be worried if Sevco get Antman. I mean, like, Antman's a good player. So, like, Go Ahead Eagles, like, were a bit of a surprise package and everything in Holland. Like, they're not really a big team in Holland. They won the cup. They were brilliant in Sorare, and Sorare is all based on like real life performance and stats and goals and assists and all that type of stuff. And it wasn't like one of these things where you think somebody starts season, you know, like Aberdeen last season, you know, they were flying high and they were playing in the cup semi and they were going to FU Celtic, we're going to win the league and all this sort of stuff. And then we battered them 6-0 and they just collapsed. But Go Ahead Eagles were really good for most of the season and they won a cup. So, you know, obviously there's a couple of good players in there. But what I don't get, if we're needing a winger, if the remit's to get a winger, is why we went to Go Ahead Eagles and then we said, we're going to take him. Because if we're going to go and sign a winger, then Antman is the actual winger in terms of where they were playing, although it might be like a sort of metric on the style of play that Brendan wants to play. Maybe he doesn't want a winger. Maybe he wants like somebody who's good, like in terms of ball retention and stuff. And Broom obviously is actually pretty good at that stuff. So yeah, I mean, obviously we're following the media and we're getting ourselves a bit upset with guys who you don't know all the logistics in the background or whether or not it's all correct. But as soon as you see those things in Jacob Broom, you're like, I'm like, just going to sign him. Like seriously, like it just feels now as if we're getting into the league, albeit it's a long season, we're underprepared. Like, you know, we don't have a Champions League qualifier next week or whatever, but we're going to have another one of these seasons where it's like we're going to line up a 10 million signing and that guy's not going to sign until the day after we confirm we've won the playoff or something, or if we win 5-0 in the first game. Like, is it going to be another one of these situations? Like, I put out a tweet and what I'd said was, still called Twitter, by the way, sorry. It's X.
Sorry, I'll do the same.
But I put in, like, we're acting as if we're bankrupt. We're selling guys, and we're selling Nicholas Kuhn, a guy who cost a few million, but then performed in the Champions League, and he got like 30 goal contributions. We're trying to replace him like with the bargain basement. But you can't go to the Eredivisie and say, "Oh, you're one of the best young guys in the Dutch league. How much do you want? 5 million? Oh no, I don't think he's worth 5. Of course, he's worth 5 million. He's definitely worth 5 million. Like they would be mad to sell him for 2 or 3 million. If we can get him for 2 or 3 million, that would be insane business. But like just going in and lowballing guys, like imagine Brentford come to us just now, right, and say, "Oh, Daisen Maeda, yeah, we'll give you 7 million for Daisen Maeda." We would all be going, "They're absolutely what? Are you having a laugh? 7 million for Daisen Maeda? He's playing the Champions League, player of the season, all that type of stuff. All right, he's not young, but whatever. Do you know what I mean?" So and that, we're doing that to them. We're like, "Yeah, I will give you 2 million. How much you want? 5 million? 2.25. Like seriously." So who knows the truth and all that? And credit to Celtic here. Obviously, the JSP thing was actually on Celtic here like 48 hours, I think, before like all the stuff came out. So that was obviously an exclusive, which was really good. But are the media winding us up here with this stuff with Jacob Broom or whatever, or is that the way we conduct transfers? Like I don't know.
It feels like that's just the way we're conducting this transfer. I said Edward McLenna here in the chat. This is what my point was yesterday. Antman was actually the player from Go Ahead that featured on the channel for me a lot more because we need a winger, and he is the winger there, you know. Brahim can play right across the line, very versatile. Brendan loves versatility. But at the price point the Rangers are going to sign Antman at, and we know the price point that they want Brahim for, why don't we just buy both of them? And you can kind of, I don't want to say you can say job done, business done, because there is a question mark on these guys being Champions League level. But for all intents and purposes, really, what other guys are you going to sign that are clearly better than these two? I don't see us spending £15 million on a Kuhn replacement. You know, I just don't see it happening. So we're shopping in that under 10 bracket. Just go and muscle Rangers out of the Antman deal. Phone up, Go Ahead and say, right, okay, we came to our senses. Send both the lads over and we'll send you a check, you know, like, and just get it done, you know. And somebody asked, would we be worried about Antman? I wouldn't be any more worried about him than I was when they signed Czerny. Czerny was clearly a really good player when they signed him on loan and was going to give them an extra angle and attack. And it was kind of a one-man attack for them at times. I know Dessers, Nigaman scored, whatever. But I kind of look at him in the same way where it's like, oh, I'm not scared if Rangers get him. It's not like, oh my God, they've signed Paul Gascoigne again or something. But it's a guy that will do well against us, and there's just no getting away for that, you know. So you just don't want them signing good players. You want them signing Louis Palma. You don't want them signing Oliver Antman.
I agree. I mean, like obviously, like Antman, like he was always like pretty good against Ajax and PSV and all that sort of stuff. So, you know, another one we've been linked with is Balawisha, and like he was injured last season. So, like I don't know whether there was any real truth in it in January or whatever. He was never signed for anybody, but he came back at the end of the season, and then he was playing again in the championship round or whatever you call it in Belgium. He was like really good against Club Brugge and everything. So when you see these guys and you, like they're doing well against other teams that you think they could be like potential pot 2 or 3 Champions League opponents or whatever. Okay, like maybe the like our league, like all the teams are not of the same strength. It's not like the English Premier League where everybody's got 100 million transfer budget, like mostly. But still, like you can see they're operating at high level. And Brahim, like, you know, I don't think he was as good like over the season. Last season he had a wee bit of an injury and stuff. The season before that was brilliant. He had a bit of an injury, and then he was coming out to form again at the end of the season. And you can see there's a player there. Like you can just see that he's a guy that's worth spending 4 or 5 million on. Maybe with the Kvistgaarden thing, they were saying that there was a release clause of 6.9 or something. All the figures quoted were 11 million and everything, but it turns out he actually had a clause. So maybe Celtic are probing there to say, you know, because if they offer free and then there's a clause, then they can just trigger that. So I don't know. But the frustrating bit is that we'll go and we'll sell Kuhn. We'll go, that's fine, you can go. We're a few weeks later, and we haven't signed anybody. The league starts on Sunday. This is the league starting. These are not pre-season friendlies. This is the league starting on Sunday. We've got Aberdeen away, second game, Rangers away, fourth game. The competitive stuff starts now. Then you've got the Champions League stuff. It's all hotting up quite quickly. Like, why win already? We've got the money in the bank. What is the big risk? Going spending 4 million on that young guy or whatever. Like, why did we not say to Como,
wait a week? 4 million on the Rocky. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I suppose
from Poland. The name they heard that.
I know. Maybe there's like that sort of element of things where like they've been a bit more reluctant because of that stuff. But then the one thing that's happening here is we have no problems whatsoever in clearing these guys out. The only guy we really struggled to clear out was like James McCarthy, like because he came in like he was injury prone, he was in a big contract, and like he just wasn't like didn't seem to be ready to play any football at any point during his career. But like Bernaby came in for like 2 million, 3 million, sold for 5 million. We get extra money this season from a Frimpong transfer. And whether or not you agree with Lagerbielke and Novrocky and all that type of stuff, that like a lot of those transfers were not actually really lost money on any of those transfers. They've come in, they've not worked, and then they've moved on again, and it's all sort of worked out okay. So I think that's where the overall sort of strategy and everything works pretty well. But it's just frustrating that you would think, what like after last season, why would you think we'd be in a situation where we're starting the season a bit weaker? And I think we are, because I think like scoring goals is so important that even if you're good in the defence and the midfield's looking pretty good, like you can be in a scenario where you're creating loads of chances and you've got people that are not converting them, then what's that's still a problem. You need to get the final pieces of the jigsaw together. So
for sure. You made a good point earlier, McBride, saying like at least for scouting good quality players. This is the first window in a while where I can remember, I know that guy. I know that guy that we're linked to. It's not like Palmas and Lagerbielkes and whatever's Telios, which is a nice sign. As we know, a big part of the reason for that is that Brendan Rodgers is a subscriber here on the channel. He loves the content. It's outside here. And David Stalker has been outed. This is Brendan Rodgers' alt account. So Brendan's here now asking for us for our seal of approval if we want the Swedish centre-back. A few people in the chat have also asked, but when Brendan asks, we answer. We've not looked at him yet. It's literally just came to us, and we'll probably do that maybe tomorrow or early next week if it materializes into a solid link. But Brendan, good to see you. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you've hit the like button. And that goes for all you guys if you're here. There's 115 of you here already. Same amount of charges levied at Man City. Sorry, Shane. So for 115 of you, we've got to get to 88 likes on the live. It's the magic number. You don't need me to explain why. Of course, you know that. The first one is normally 67 we look to go to, but because there's so many of you here, we're all getting set for Flag Day. Let's get straight to that 88 mark. But yeah, and someone else put a nice wee comment in here I wanted to put on screen. It was Eddie again. This is what Celtic should do this summer. Sell Kuhn for 19, Briam, Antman, Balikwisha in, and you've probably got a bit of change left over. And then you play that game of, like, can one of them be worth 25 mil? Or one of them's rubbish, one of them's broken all the time, injured. Fine, you can eat that up. One's in the middle, he stays around a bit longer, whatever. Rather than the whole, like, the crap we've did in the past. I would have liked to have thought that we just lift the gauge on the transfer business rather than shopping for 2 and 3 million guys everywhere. Maybe we have the same approach, but we lift the ante, up the Antman on it, and get a bunch of guys that have a track record, have been in Europe in a decent league, have played some top opponents, won a cup or won a league or something. And, you play the same game, but scaled up, and then eventually you can sell somebody not for 25 mil, which seems to be Celtic's like breaking point. If someone offers 25 mil, they can't sleep at night, but you actually sell somebody for 40 mil or 50 mil. Imagine that. Sporting Lisbon just sold, let me hear this guy, McBride. Sporting Lisbon have sold Gyökeres to Arsenal for, I don't know what, 70 million, 60 million, 90 million. I cannot remember what it came in for, right? That is a guy that we sincerely could have bought. Was it Brighton? Kind of going nowhere. Went on loan to Coventry, did all right. Do you think Celtic would have sold Gyökeres for the same amount that Sporting Lisbon had got? If we had 3 years and he scored the same amount of goals and all the rest of it, would we fuck, Sorry to swear. But we bottle it at that stuff, so I would have just liked us to lift the ante so we can get into that zone a little bit. Thoughts on the Gyökeres thing? Sorry, because I was passing to you there.
I think so. Like, he is a guy who we could have signed. Like, then they go and spend like 15 million or whatever and buy Luis Suarez, who's like not the actual Luis Suarez, the one that used to play with Liverpool, but he's like been prolific, I think, like in La Liga too. And they just go and buy a young guy like that and say, right, there's a replacement. No bother, we're gonna scout somebody else. We probably wouldn't. I mean, the answer to that is probably wouldn't. But then I think like Sporting Lisbon, Benfica. I mean, Benfica got what 70 or 80 million for Darwin Núñez. Ajax have got really good at it. Like if teams come in for Ajax players or whatever, they want 40, 50, 60 million. But they never really usually pay like, 10, 15, 20 million for players. In fact, I think they did actually. I think they got to a season where they did, and they got themselves into a bit of bother really by doing that, so they pushed the boat out too much. But they went higher than what Celtic are going. Like Celtic's record transfer is 11 million, whereas Ajax did buy a few guys for 20 million and stuff. So we need to charge it out, but I think that we've got a lot better at that. I mean, we've got top dollar for Matt Riley, and he's really good. He's a lot of injuries last season, but there's other teams looking at him now thinking he could go to the level above Brighton. So we got top dollar for him. We get good money for Tierney. Maybe a bit lucky with Jota, I don't know. Obviously, I think
lucky with Jota. It's an absolute lottery win.
Aye, so that's kind of set us up. But my point earlier about like goals and assists and stuff like that, I know it's not rocket science stuff, but I feel like a lot of Celtic fans, because Nicholas Kuhn didn't have as good a second half of the season, have forgotten how good he was for most of last season. So like, if you'd have dropped the hat in like January and said who's the player of the year in Scotland, everybody would have said Nicholas Kuhn. They wouldn't have said Daisen Maeda. They would have said Nicholas Kuhn, and he still played pretty well against Bayern Munich, but in the league, he was hit or miss or whatever. Maybe did he have his head turned? I don't know. But then Maeda really stepped up and he finished the season really well. And then everybody was quite like, he's definitely the player of the season. But up to that point, and I know that's like, just like saying like Rangers did at one point, if games lasted like 85 minutes, then we would have won the league and all that sort of stuff. But like up to that point, Kuhn was like, and he still got 33 goal contributions. So what you've got to remember here is that if you keep selling guys like that, you might bring in somebody who's actually a pretty good player. It just doesn't really work, and they don't get 20 goal contributions, and then all of a sudden you've gone from getting record amount of goals or averaging 3 goals per game to averaging 2 goals per game. And you might think, well, that's not a big difference, but it is kind of big difference, because then you can have some games where some random stuff happens. You can see the penalty, you get a VAR, somebody hits the ball, somebody goes in the top corner, somebody scores a banger, you still win 3-1, but all of a sudden then you're back to 2-1 and 2 each and dropping points and all that sort of stuff. So I think it does make a difference in terms of losing guys like that. And I just feel as if, like, what is the remit here? We're just gonna, like, we've now like got to a stage where we're in the last parts of the Champions League. We're in the discussion of we're still here. We're 30 seconds away from taking Bayern Munich to extra time. We're that close, and now we're sitting here discussing, are we even as strong as last season? So spend some of that money, just buy Antman and Bream or whatever. Go and spend it on Ballywish or whatever. Spend it on some guys who are good in Belgium or whatever, and see if we can actually do a bit better again, or at least match that. Don't be just going, well, if we win the league again, that's a good result,
Yeah, it's getting that way, isn't it? I just want to challenge a wee comment or two here. We've got Michael McDonald saying that these teams we're citing don't play in Scotland. The reason I use Gyökeres as an example, right, Sport Lisbon don't really have the pedigree of selling guys the same way that Benfica and Porto do, and maybe Bruges and one or two others. And Gyökeres' goals are coming against he smashed everyone in Portugal and did well in Europe, right? But it's not as if the Portuguese league is the Premier League. It's not Germany. It's not France. It's not Italy. It's not really that. It's above the Scottish league, right? We all get that. But the bottom, let's say excluding the top 6 teams in Portugal, the rest of them are cannon fodder to the top teams, So scoring 30, 35 goals in Portugal, is it really less valuable than scoring 30, 35 goals in Scotland had he been here that time? And that's kind of the main point I'm making with that is, like, it's not as if Sporting Lisbon players always go for mad money or whatever, but they were quite like, no, this is the price you're paying. This is the guy we've got, and we've got a good contract and everything else. There was another one that kind of followed in here asking if we would sell Maeda for 30 million. And I said this on Axom 2 weeks ago, and Paul John was telling me the comment section for I was huffing glue. I was saying that Dyson's worth 50 million. But what I was saying is Celtic should be saying the price on his head is 50 million. Like, start to raise that bar. Start to just put that out there that, we've woken up and we realize that we've been selling guys maybe Well, maybe we haven't really sold anyone that cheap, don't get me wrong, but we realise the value of this player, and this is the price it's going to be. And you test the resolve of those other teams out there. It's the only way you're going to get more money for players rather than just accepting at that 25 mark. I don't know if this is news or if this is just a sentiment. Paul McStay unfurling the flag. That'll be quality. If McStay's not been seen since he retired, I don't think, has he?
I don't recall seeing him at Celtic Park. I mean, we've not really talked much about Flag Day, have we? Like, so...
Not yet. We'll get there, I suppose, now. But yeah, Flag Day, there we go. That's a segue, isn't it?
I know. I mean, like, yeah, we've just, like, okay, it was disappointing not getting the treble, but that's a high standard to set as well. And, you know, we did better in Europe. Part of the sort of funds we've accumulated because we got to the past the group stage, we got some wins, we got some extra money in for that. And we won the league like really quite well. So, but then the reason we won the league well was because we started pretty well last season as well, and then we built on it. So you don't really want to be in a scenario where, you know, you start giving people a bit of hope. And by the way, like whilst we're talking about this, let's not like leave out Hearts, because like people will just think like, right, they're just sitting there drinking Guinness and Magners and they're off their rocker. But Tony Bloom been involved in Hearts, like they are signing, they are now signing guys who nobody has heard of. But I think that some of these guys like Braga, Kizaridis, all these types of guys, they'll start playing and people go, that guy's a player. You know, so Hearts are, and like some of those guys I think are pretty good. So I think that you'll be in a season this season where you'll go to Hearts and you'll think this is going to be quite a tough like season, not season, sorry, a tough season in terms of some of their away games. You know, got Aberdeen away. Aberdeen were kind of started the season well, went a bit backwards. But again, you see they've got a plan in terms of what they're doing with their scouting, try and buy guys from, you know, who are a bit undervalued. They're spending a couple 100,000 on them, which doesn't sound a lot, but they're still spending some money on them, and they're trying to bring in young guys or guys who are maybe a bit undervalued, etc., and then sell them on. So they're trying to sort of copy the model. So all of a sudden then in Hibs were probably second half of the season for a long time were the form team in Scotland last season as well. So you could have a bit more competitiveness there in terms of the top end of the league and stuff like that, rather than thinking, oh, who are we playing this weekend? Who are we winning this weekend? Oh, that's a hard away game. That's a hard away game. That's a hard away game and stuff as well. So don't forget about Hearts, because they're still signing guys as well. I've seen some links Saturday as well. It's only July. And obviously, they're still signing guys, and if they unearth a few gems, that's enough to like automatically get them at a stage where you think, well, they could beat not maybe over the course of the season, but they could beat Celtic and Rangers a few times at home and stuff, and then that makes a huge difference, right? There's 6 points here or there, or whatever. That could decide a title. So this will be quite an exciting season, but let's not forget that we're raising the flag and we're coming back as champions, eh? So I seen somebody having this mad thread saying that he didn't think Celtic were the favourites for the league. I was going, oh, seriously? Like, what? Like, we've won, is it 13 out of 14 leagues or 14 out of 15 or something? Like, anyway, I'll shut up now.
I was just going to say, I said it when Derek McInnes was appointed, and I'm going to just remind everyone again, Hearts are my pick for second this year. They're not playing any midweeks. And I make you quite right, McBride. I think this could be a vintage SPFL season in terms of like the field being a lot better than before. The main thing, as we know with Scottish teams, is juggling Europe if they get there. You know, we've seen teams European hangovers from qualifiers even stretch through half a season. So if Hibs and Aberdeen, if they can keep their, again, sorry for swearing, but if they can keep their shit together with juggling midweeks and stuff like that, if they get qualified into group stages, then yeah, it will be like a severely like well-balanced league. I think Rangers could be one of the ones as well that do struggle with midweeks and weekends. New team, new manager, blah, 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 whatever. Chat for another day, as you've said there. Great interactions in the chat. It is absolutely flying away, guys. There's a bunch of likes coming in as well. We've not quite hit that magic number of 88. We're going to preview the team, have a look at predicted 11, and maybe chat some Sorare teams before we lovies and leavies. But we did a show earlier this week on the channel where I was going through, or not, maybe last week, the Celtic cards that came out on Sorare, the early access, the new ones that are available. Be sure to check that out if you've missed it. But like I told you then, and I'll repeat that again, Sorare love the content that I make, whether it be on Quinny 3001 or on Celtic here. Sorare love Celtic. There's just no get. McBride, how many times have they sent us to Parkhead? You know, Sorry, I love the hoops, no two ways about it. So they've given me a special link, and the link has just got even better. Anyone that joins and signs up gets 150 euros, wherever your currency is. Could be pounds or dollars. No one cares. It's just stapled to 150 euros for signing up. So the first purchase you make will dictate how much credit you get. So if you buy, what's a limited Negren going for now? Probably around that mark. So if you buy a Negren,
yeah, 40-50 quid actually. Aye, 40-50 quid.
It's cheaper now. Okay, well maybe buy something a bit, maybe Schmeichel, because he'll be still quite expensive probably. You buy a Schmeichel and then you'll get 150 euros of credit, wherever that translates into pounds or dollars or whatever you're using, to go and then build the rest of the squad with. It's the biggest sign-up bonus I've ever done. It supports the channel, the Celts Are Here channel, me, McBride Ace, and everything else we do here. So if you do get stuck, if you've got any questions, we're here to help you, obviously. But it gets you 150 bonus for signing up, and it helps us. So everyone's a winner. So if you want to do that, great. All the cards that are on Sorare are officially licensed Celtic merch, so Celtic get a cut of all that. It's a good partnership for Celtic over the years, to say the least, and it's something me and McBride obviously have a lot of fun with, and we go through it in more detail in other videos. I'm not going to labour it too much, but I just wanted to let you know that the link has been extra boosted. It was £100, euros, whatever. Last week, it's now 150, and that's only on for like the next month or two until September. So get it while it's hot. And Celtic, McBride, I'm sure you'll back me up here, one of the best teams in the game to be playing fantasy football with.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's fantasy football, right? So you want those sort of dominant like home games and things. I think what's really good about Sorare as well is not like EPL, etc., where it's like, well, all right, they've conceded, you don't get any points. Like Celtic score a lot of points, right? And that's because Carter Vickers dominates the game. Like we score well on like the sort of different sort of matrices, etc. And like Nygren, like he was a guy who was like one of the top under 23 players last season just for Notch Island. So everybody's like going bonkers for him because he moved to Celtic, which people think's like a better move. Obviously, like as a dominant team. So yeah, if you like fantasy football and you like Celtic, then it's definitely the place to be. Anyway.
Now, I think when we come to look at the predicted team for the weekend, the fullbacks and the goalkeeper, well, what do you think? Is Sinisalo going to play this? It's going to be Schmeichel, isn't it?
I've seen a few things, but I mean, I do like Sinisalo, but like, why would you, if you bring him in and you say he's going to take over from Kasper Schmeichel, but then they extended Schmeichel's contract, so
where did Schmeichel get an extension? I missed that.
Well, he was only guaranteed.
To be the 1 year.
Last year,
yeah.
Right, so like if you're not going to play him this season, why would you extend him? Like, you would just say, well, okay, we're going to play Sinisalo and we'll bring in a backup or whatever. Like they haven't brought in Ross Doohan, obviously his third choice, and I think there's an element of that relates to the Champions League stuff and the homegrown quota and things. So I think what I would say is I'd like to see Sinisalo getting like more cup games. Mentioned that like cup game earlier in the season. If you're playing Falkirk in the cup, the last 16 at home or whatever, give Sinisalo a game. Don't get to the end of the season where Schmeichel's rolling about holding his shoulder, he's not fresh or whatever. Like give the guy cup games or whatever. Maybe not necessarily Champions League, but home cup games or whatever. Just like, give him a chance. So.
I've just got a message. I don't know if it's just people chatting or if it's a breaking one. Any truth to this? It's a Celts Are Here post.
Doesn't sound
Rodgers
good.
Sends Tisdale to Belgium for £2 million defender. Is this the guy? It is. You guys said he was at Hammarby. Why is he going to Belgium? Oh, he's playing Charleroi. Interesting. That's a Celts Are Here exclusive, so that's going to be based on fact.
Playing Charleroi tonight.
Oh, guys, say your prayers, right? There's a midfielder at Charleroi called Tatrawi, who we have previewed on the channel before. If the Celtic scouts clap eyes on this kid and we don't put a bid in, there's no hope for any of us.
Yeah.
Big physical guy, box to box, techers, good tackler. Be interesting to see. But anyway, yeah. So that's what that is. Sorry, I just got a wee thing on my phone. I was like, what's it? It was about Dane Murray being loaned out. So maybe it will be if we sign this guy or whatever. But that's an interesting one to see. I think centre-back is the main defensive headache this weekend, isn't it? I think most people would probably agree Trusty's going to play this game. Carter Vickers being ready or not. Maybe AJ comes into this bracket a little bit because After the last match, Rodgers was quoted as saying Vickers and AJ are a step behind everyone else. You know, they're not quite ready yet. You know, it's good degree of they've been working up their minutes over the games that they have had in pre-season. But maybe for Vickers, extend it to Johnson if you want, McBride. But do you see the potential for a different centre-back pair or even a different back four to what's on screen here now?
Not really, no. I think what will happen with Johnson is he'll start and then he'll come off in 60 or 70. He was given more time off, so I had a look at it myself, and before that game he'd had 3 weeks off from the Gold Cup, so he'd done nothing at all, but then he came back and I think he got 60 minutes against Al Ahly. CCV played 45 minutes against Ajax, and then he played 60 minutes against Al Ahly, so he'll be ready. Like, that's like, I don't have any doubts that he will not actually start. Like, don't get it. Trusty, yeah, I mean, Scales played a lot of games last season, so there's a lot of conjecture about whether it's going to be Trusty or Scales. If it was my pick, I would pick Trusty, and then Kieran Taylor, unless he gets injured, Kieran Tierney's nailed. So, yeah,
I'm with you there. And then I think the midfield is where the headaches kind of extend. No one's taking McGregor out the team. I think we know that. Hitate he's ready in the changing room, getting ready for the match. I think we know that. You've got Negren to play wide. I've actually just seen a comment that kind of has the same. He's been drinking the same tea as you, McBride. Get Engels back into midfield and play Negren out wide.
Yeah, that's what I would do. That's what I would do. I mean, so Rodgers' system, he likes to have Dyson in the left or Jota on the left, and he likes to have somebody in the right-hand side who cuts in. So Forrest and Yang obviously are wingers, and they can do that wing role, but like, if you've got Nygren in there, then he can do that similar thing to what Nicholas Kuhn did with Johnson. So when Kuhn came inside, Johnson went in overlap, and that either created some space for Kuhn or it gave the defender a problem and slip in Johnson, and he got lots of assists from it. So I don't see why we'd give that up. I mean, like, Rodgers said about Yang not leaving and stuff, and he said that he's seen him as a first teamer, but that doesn't mean he sees him as a starter, right? Like, he played loads of games in the second half of the season, so that is a first teamer in the same way as Ida and Furuhashi. You know, Furuhashi started loads of games, but Ida was still a first teamer because he would come on for the last 30 minutes of 4 games in a row, then he would start a couple, he was still first team player. So I think that it's the guy in Sorare who's been sacked now, his Engels at 20% to start, and I just don't get that at all. Like, he might be slightly in doubt, but he's not 20% chance to start. Like, he's probably 60 or 70% chance to start or something. Like, I don't know. And Nygren, yeah, I think so. I mean, like, let's not read too much into pre-season. Like, I mean, like everybody looks at pre-season. Like, some of the teams were bizarre, like totally bizarre. In the last game, Rodgers just said, these are guys I want to give minutes to. But then he was giving minutes to Johnson, giving minutes to Carter Vickers. So they could be just giving Engels minutes in that game or whatever. Or, you know, Nygren played a lot, but he might have just been having a look at Nygren. He's new, so obviously might have been having a look at him. You mentioned Trusty played pretty much all the preseason games. So I think the favourite would be McGregor, Rio and Engels with Nygren there. And then, you know, you've got Ida, you've got Yamada come off the bench, you've got Yang come off the bench, you've got Forrest come off the bench. You've got Ralston to come off the bench for Johnson. You've got Inamura who could maybe manage Tierney's minutes if you're a few up. Like, there's definitely loads of options there, but I think you've got to think, what is the actual best team we can actually put out at the moment? And like, that's it for me. So
fair. I think this team gives you some options from the bench, like you say, because if you were to start, let's say, Negren in the Engels position here, and then you started like Yang or whatever. If you're bringing Yang off, it's going to be 4 Engels, you know, and then it's not. So I do agree with you actually that maybe gives you a few more gears to go up in the team, depending on how the game goes. I just personally think at home to St Mirren, I don't know, St Mirren are a team to be respected. You know, we're all a big fan of the manager there. He's a good guy, works hard and has his teams playing well. Brendan Rodgers agrees with that as well. So yeah, I don't know. You're maybe somewhat swaying me here, but I'm before talking to you, I'm rather convinced that we're going to see In Brendan Rodgers' own words, Yang is a starting winger.
Could happen,
So I could see this because again, I think Rodgers plays politics with the board. We've seen him really hesitant to play Dyson through the middle when it was like everyone else was injured and all the rest of it. And I think he's really going to want to say, no, Negren's my midfielder. He's not my winger. I still need you to buy me a winger, So I think, you've put me closer to being on the fence with it, but I'm probably going to veer back towards, I think Negren plays midfield because I think Rodgers will be playing a wee bit, same with the Aston Villa thing when he's bringing guys off the bench and all that, like Cummings and whatever. Brendan plays the game. We don't know what game he's playing all the time because we're not privy to these dynamics, most of the time, but I think, because he was like adamant, Dyson's not up forward. Dyson's a winger. He kept saying that until Kyogo left and we had to play him through the middle. And then he's like, oh, yeah, well, we knew his best position was through the middle. We just like him out wide. He changed his tune quite quickly there, didn't he? So yeah, like that's my gut on it. That Negren plays midfield.
It's going to be one of those. I think either will start. I think if I had the choice, I would start Yamada. I was driving Ida to Italy earlier, so that's different. I mean, obviously we signed this guy for a reason, right? And it's maybe not the type of game for him, I don't know, but he does look as if he's got a bit more build about him. He's not, Furuhashi struggled in a lot of those games. The team sits in, and whereas Yamada looks a bit more robust. Obviously, initial impressions, and we know him a bit through obviously Sorare. So you could have that. I mean, obviously, it probably will be that up front, and then it's your combination versus my combination, roughly. I think that will be there or thereabouts. Otherwise, I think it would be a big surprise, really, And it is Flag Day, and it's it's St Mirren. It's not like you're playing against, no disrespect, Falkirk or whatever. Just come up and, you think you can, maybe you'll get away with just starting Ralston because Johnson's time off. I think it will be we're going to go after it here. We've got to be on it straight away. We've got to get into competitive action. We've got Aberdeen next game. We've got a Champions League qualifier coming up. We've got to be on it straight away. And for that reason, I don't think there'll be much messing about.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's definitely not messing about. I don't think there'll be much sentiment on offer. I think the only sentiment that's maybe out there is for Forrest to start because it's Flag Day and you maybe get him to do it and all that because he hit his milestone last season, maybe hit another one this year, make the record even longer. I can't explain it, McBride, but seeing my mind's eye, I can just see Yamada celebrating a goal. I don't know if he's starting. I don't know if he's coming off the bench, but I've just got a feeling that he's going to make a mark at the weekend somehow, somewhere. I make you quite right. It's probably going to be Ida for all intents and purposes. Yamada's just got to the squad, so you probably don't want to start him and maybe gets deer in the headlights. You maybe get him off the bench later once the rhythm of the game is established. But Ida's been very lackluster in pre-season, so I think that's quite coin tossy. But I think it will be Ida based on logic,
Yeah, I think so. I think he started a lot of home games last season as well, so I think it makes sense. Also,
I tell you what, I was just going to let's for the last 5 minutes. Right? Yeah. I'm going to do a wee poll for you, right? I'm just going to put Negren or Engels, right? And it's going to be who plays CM, who starts. See what you guys think. And the YouTube poll, I think we're only live on YouTube. So there's a poll on YouTube now. While you're taking your phone out of your pocket, changing the tab on your screen, whatever you need to do to vote on the poll. Who's going to start in centre mid? Is it going to be Ben Negren or is it going to be Arne, the last action hero Engels? Let us know. We can kind of see how it does from there. Obviously, we know if you fancy Engels to play centre mid, you probably fancy Negren to play on the wing, etc., etc. So let me know. If get the votes in, let us know your thoughts and feelings. Smash the like button. Of course, we need to get to that magic number of 88. But yeah, we'll revisit this right before we leave. But I think we're all kind of in agreement on what the predicted lineup kind of is and should be. Now, I have already kind of ran ahead of the game. I'm probably going to rebuild a little bit before we get to the weekend. But, this wasn't the tab I thought it was. I had one up already with my teams and stuff like that. I've got 3 teams lined up for this weekend to go after some hot streak action, to go and win me some cash on some fantasy football. I bought a lot of Celtic players, McBride. Maybe didn't buy quite as many as you. But I also picked up a Fadinger and a Braga Fadinger is at Motherwell, and Braga is at Hearts. Now, before you all lynch me, this is only provisional teams, and
Get Max Aarons right off
I
the
own,
screen. Get him right
I
off
owned,
the screen, man.
I owned that Max Aarons.
Oh, get him sold. Get him sold. At least he's not in a Rangers shirt, so that's not like, oh, come on, man.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, we'll just delete that. But anyway, these are the teams for the most part. We'll maybe build our team without him in it. But I was going to go for AJ and Tierney together, double defense, but I'm a wee bit nervy on AJ. You've kind of convinced me maybe not to be. But like I say, in my mind's eye, I can't get out my head that Yamada's scoring at the weekend. So regardless if Ida starts, Ida could blank, you know? So, like, I don't know. I've just, in my gut, I'm like, team one, go Yamada as the forward. I've not got Dyson or Negren. They would be much better options, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the captain, honestly. That's like, I sent you the picture of the Super Air one that Captain Tierney as well. So let him know just having a love in after the whole two Guinness. But yeah, I mean, like, it's going to be really exciting, right? Like, there's loads to win, and a lot of the other leagues, like, there's some leagues back, obviously Austria and some other leagues, but don't think there's any like sort of Benfica or sort of Sporting Lisbon or anything yet. So this is like a really good like chance. Like, so I done like the preview video on my own channel, and like Celtic have the best fixture for clean sheet percentage and expected goals in the whole of Europe this weekend. The whole of Europe. So, okay, St Mirren, are pretty handy. There's no doubt about that. But, like, based on stats and obviously what you'd expect to happen, like, still a pretty good chance that Celtic should do well. So yeah, I kind of actually Adam Ida, like, I'd like. I mean, the thing is, whilst he's playing, he's on pens, right? So, like, even if Engels is on, I think. If Engels on, I think Engels gets pens, and then it's Ida. Is that right? From last season.
Hitate's taking a penalty in pre-season, so I think Hitate finally getting penalties. Remember all the aggro he used to get his first couple of years trying to take penalties, and it was always O'Reilly or I can't remember who got behind O'Reilly, but there was one time he wanted the ball and McGregor had to take it off him. So I think Hitate might get a pen or two this year if Engels isn't on the pitch, personally.
Yeah, and I suppose there'll be some points where Ida'll not be in the pitch either. And then Nygren was taking some of the in-swing corners for the left as well, which was really good stats-wise, and also for fantasy football, because you obviously get, the odd guy gets the jaggy bun on it, and then that's like a sort of big chance created. And he's just a good player in general. I mean, Nygren, like, I think everybody's like bought into that now. Like, he's just looks really quite comfortable in the ball, which will be really good for especially the home games. I've still got my doubts about whether they could play that midfield role in any form of big game, if that makes sense. Just don't think the balance of midfield will work very well if you're playing against a Club Brugge or a Leipzig or whatever. But he'll be a really good option to have. So what are you going here? You're going Johnson, Maitov, and who else you got left?
I got this guy Fadinger. He's came in from Austria. He was actually quite good, and in pre-season he's been really good. They've got the Copenhagen assistant manager now.
Nice.
He wasn't great in Austria, but he was handy. Take some set pieces and stuff. He was like £7, super bargain. Don't really have many midfielders.
I think Adam Montgomery's like he'll surely start for Livingston.
Well, that's what I was going to say. If Adam Montgomery starts, then I could definitely just seal that Max Aarons and put it on the shelf for a while. Or Inamura. If we reckon Inamura's going to get minutes, isn't he? Tierney's not going to get 90, will he?
It's still quite early doors. I mean, like he had that wee sort of knock against Ajax.
I probably want Inamura to get a debut, but not really for a Tierney thing, but maybe for an Inamura thing, get him his wee debut, get him on the pitch after pre-season. I don't know.
I wouldn't mind that choice. Obviously, like, I think for this game week, it's not like doesn't set the divisions or anything either. So square sausage mix saying what the F are they on about? So this is called the Sorare CSC, and this is Sorare, which is basically fantasy football, and Celtic are on it, and it's licensed, so it's like licensed cards. Shin Yamada's there, like that's his Frontale card. So yeah, you won't know what we're on about, but it's like one of the reasons.
There's a video on the channel the other day. If you really want to bore yourself with it, or you might get up to speed with it, feel free to check that out. But yeah, 5-a-side fantasy football for the most part. Cash on the line as well. I think it's a lot better than betting, personally, myself. Just my POV. Yeah, if we think Adam Montgomery's going to play, he's on here, but he only joined like last week, so I'm not too sure how reliable that is. Livingston away to Kelly's not a great game either, right enough, but I'll maybe slide him in there. That makes me feel a bit better, doesn't it? Captain AJ. Me top playing Hearts won't be good, but I've run out of Schmeichels.
Yeah.
And do you know what I was going to show you as well, McBride, is all my older Celtic cards that can't compete for money, they then go into the classic game mode, which is now 7-a-side fantasy football. I've put Negren into this team. Look at that.
Nice. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Hatate Tierney, Shaqiri Wanizek midfield, Neymar and Negren up front.
That's like, honestly, like sometimes people reply to me on Twitter and they'll say, "How do you know about this guy or whatever?" And like that's been Nygren's North Island card. So like we owned him. We had this card last season. So you're following how he's doing every weekend, where he's playing, how many goals, how many assists he gets, how his stats and everything match up. So that's how you know, right? Because you're already sometimes following these guys. So someone says now we're signing Balikwisha. I've got a Balikwisha. I know how he was playing last season. I knew he was injured. I know he was doing well before. I knew how he did at the end of the season because I'm following him every weekend. That's the only advantage I've got on Joe Blogs that goes and have a look on YouTube or whatever or scout somebody. So that's the knowledge, right? That's the only reason for the general knowledge. And that's why like Sorare's like pretty good because like even when like Furuhashi signed, like the J League was on there, and like we knew who Furuhashi was. Like no other Celtic fan would ever have heard of Kyogo Furuhashi, but we knew who he was, and then obviously he did really well too. So I like the Yamada signing because like Yamada's stats are pretty comparable to Maeda and Furuhashi in Japan. So like people are understating this because he was only 1.5 million. Blah. He could really surprise people, honestly.
I think so. I think he's clearly shown in his Kawasaki career he's a better footballer than Kyogo. Kyogo was, I think he's got the ability. We've seen that in the little glimpse where he played in wing before we sold him. But he never passed to anyone, ever. He never really dropped deep and was effective. And Yamada, I think Yamada has more of that in him to be that kind of, he can actually play football a bit more, can actually link up the play. So I'm with you there, McBride. This is the full Celtic 7-a-side team. And I thought I'd put this on screen because it's a nice kind of visual. 4 seasons of kits there, which is fun. Celtic have been on, this is their 5th season. We're interesting to see how the new kit looks on the new design of the cards. But just thought I'd show this one off because it's quite cool. Different seasons, different kits, a few different editions in there as well. Like a champion edition McGregor, for example. And whatnot as well. And they'll just be going to compete for cards, whereas these ones here will be going to compete for money. Like I said before, sorry, I love the content from me and McBride, and they've given us a special link in the description of the video and in the live chat. They'll get you 150 euros, pounds, dollars of credit. If you want more info on what Sorare is and all this caper, I did a stream on the channel a few days ago. If you're watching this after we've been live, I'll put it on screen kind of now at the end of the show so you can just click straight onto it. But if you're watching this live, feel free to jump onto the channel. It'll be very easy to find. It says the cards are on the thumbnail. You won't miss it.
Right, Quinny, I'm going to jump in. Right, so I asked earlier about Victor Eriksson. Obviously, we're not going into a full scouting thing or whatever here. So back in 2023, he was playing Sweden, and then he transferred to in January 24 to Minnesota. So went to MLS, but didn't really play much at Minnesota. So that concerns me a wee bit because if you go to the MLS and you can't get a game as a defender, that is a bit concerning. Anyway, so then he moved back to Hammarby, but I mean, his stats at Hammarby are actually pretty solid, to be honest. So, you know, I don't know. I mean, he's 24, looks pretty solid. They're obviously doing reasonably well. They're in the Conference League qualifications, so they were doing okay. They're beating Charleroi 1-0 away from home tonight, so that's quite a good result for them as well. They're up 1-0 in aggregate as well. So yeah, he's okay, but I mean, I'd it's not a guy who really, I don't think would really sort of stand out, if that makes sense. Does look like a kind of right-footed centre back, so might just be a guy we bring in and just say right back kind of a couple of million and be the backup to CCV. But there we go. So not much more information, but maybe you'll dig a wee bit deeper at some point and if the links intensify.
Yeah, I'll be sure to. I've just popped him up here in case. Well, there's somebody else in that Hammarby team I was excited by. Maybe they've left already, or maybe it was somebody in a different team in Sweden. There was somebody I thought, oh yeah, if they're in Europe, but it's a different team. Ignore me. But yeah, that Minnesota thing's interesting because like we've seen Sviatchenko go to MLS and not be particularly like he's okay, isn't he? He's not fantastic. And there was somebody else, Uragide. Uragide is like the best centre back for Dallas right now, you know. So like, yeah, Odenholm kind of get in the LA team. The MLS is really weird, but Minnesota is a team that I know, and I'm sure you'd agree with this, don't have centre backs of any real pedigree. Michael Boxall, the guy from New Zealand, is probably about it, but it's not as if he should be keeping out young Swedish prospects or whatever. So
Yeah.
that is a weird crease in this, isn't it? So yeah, definitely worth digging into more.
And then he's come back and he's done like pretty well for Hammarby. So like, I mean, like he's still on 24. I mean, I think defender wise, like defenders do sort of develop a bit later as well, you know. So I wouldn't be too concerned about that. But like, he's not one that's like jumping out the page, if that makes sense. You know, obviously Charleroi playing tonight, like the best young defender out with the top teams in Belgium's probably Celis Andreu, and like he's kind of out the team at the moment. I think Celtic were linked with him about a year ago, and there's like loads of transfer rumours. They're talking about €2 million for him. So I was like, why not just go and get a guy like that rather than going and getting a loan from Man City? I don't get it, you know, because $2 million doesn't really make any sort of dent in the money that you've got in the bank. And also, we've seen with all these guys, I mean, people didn't like Bernabei at all. I don't think anybody really rated them. But Celtic nearly doubled their money in Bernabei. So, like, yeah, I mean, I don't get the strategy there, but I think he's obviously JSP, as I'm going to call him. It's coming in as a bit of cover, probably. But there we go.
Yeah, well, nice to be early take on that, McBride. Thanks for laying down your alpha, giving us some insight on that. I really appreciate it. To everyone who's tuned in today, make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the like, drop a comment. If you're watching this after we've been live, get into the comment section. Let me, McBride, know what we're getting right, what we're getting wrong, and how you think and feel about it all, of course. But yeah, McBride, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. Thanks for joining me again. It's been a really fun one. 90-minute shift.
I know. Thanks very much, everybody, for watching again as well. Sometimes, like, you've been out for a few months, you think, we're going to be talking to nobody tonight. But yeah, it's pretty good. But pre-season hype and looking forward to Celtic being back, to be honest.
Yeah, good luck. If anyone's going to the game, travel safe, have fun. Hail, hail, and on the hoops.
On the hoops.